I am going to start rather unusually, if I may. I'm going to start with an apology. And the apology is based on the fact that I'm stood here today feeling rather nervous. And I'd like to explain why I'm feeling rather nervous, if I may, because Paul McConnell, the CEO of USB, has been drumming it into all of us for days and weeks and months that we have to show up today and motivate and inspire a group of fantastic people. So with that in my ear, I'm feeling rather nervous. So before I came up here this morning, I was thinking to myself, how do I motivate and inspire a group of fantastic individuals such as yourselves? And I've come to the conclusion that the best way for me to motivate and inspire each and every one of you is for you to motivate and inspire me first. Would that be okay? Yes or no is fine. Great. Thanks very much. Okay, so what I'd like you to do, just as an exercise, because a lot of what I do is very interactive, you'll come to discover that shortly. I'd like to turn to the person sitting next to you. Great opportunity to make a new friend. Turn to the person sitting next to you, and I'm going to give you some words to use, if that's okay. Are you ready? Okay, repeat after me. I think I'm going to like this guy. Great stuff. Thanks so much. Now I'm feeling really motivated and inspired. By the way, how many of you, I've come all the way from the UK and it's a real pleasure to be in South Africa for the second time. Please raise your hand if you've ever heard me speak before. Wow. Raise your hand if you've not heard me speak before. Fantastic. And please raise your hand if you couldn't care less whether you've heard me speak before or not. Thank you, madam. I will be back to you shortly. Okay, fantastic. So what you will come to discover, and in the short time, 15 minutes that I have with you this morning, I'm not ignoring the fact that most speakers get 5 minutes. I've just come a long way, so they've given me a bit longer, which is great. This will be quite an interactive session. So what I'd like to do is to find out if there's just one person who is brave enough to come up on the stage and just help me with the first part of the presentation. So just by show of hands. Great. Wall-to-wall apathy, we call that. So let's just do an exercise together, because I appreciate you've been sat here for about half an hour now. So let's just do an exercise together, okay? So what I'd like you to do, without knocking the person sitting next to you, is I'd just like you to put your arm out, left or right, horizontal in front of you. It doesn't matter, as long as it's horizontal, like that. Fantastic. So all together, just copy me. Raise your hand a little bit like this. Another 6, 7 inches. Bit more, little bit more. Little bit more. Now all the way to the ceiling. Fantastic. When I ask for a volunteer, that's what you do, okay? Just to be clear. Now, I only have a short time, so I'm going to share a couple of very quick things. And then what I'd like to do is to give you a real tangible takeaway so that even if we never meet again, you've got something that you can take away as a bit of a souvenir. Something that will help you in your business and your everyday lives. So one thing to mention is that I still run a business, love the corporate world, love to help other people. So I guess what I'm doing is still relevant and current because I'm out there doing the things that all you guys and ladies are doing every single day. The one other thing that I will just share with you is that everything I do, I guarantee. There's nothing more frustrating, is there? And I don't mean to knock one of the iconic motivational speakers, and I should just add a caveat by saying I'm not really a motivational speaker. I think motivation, the only sustainable form of motivation is that comes from self-motivation, but we'll kind of circle around to that. One of the things that I love to do is to guarantee outcomes, because if you are going to invest money in a speaker, a trainer, somebody that will facilitate your conference, you kind of need to know that you're going to get a return on investment. So we can talk about that in the break if you want more information. I'd like you just for a moment, since you all have delegate packs and you have some booklets that have got some note pages, if you have a pen, what I'd like everyone to do if you can, or if you don't have a pen handy, just think about these two words. I'd like you all, if you would please, to write down the words discipline and regret. Discipline and regret. Two pretty simple words. But just for a moment, what I'd like you all to do is to think about those two words, and if you would, answer this question. And the question is very simple. Which of those two words is painful? Which of those two words is painful? The answer is both. Both of them are painful. If you really think about it, would you agree both are pretty painful? Here's the guarantee. First guarantee of the day. It's not related to the guarantee I've already mentioned. The first guarantee for the day is, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't do the first in life and business, I guarantee you'll always get the second. It's true, isn't it? It's great to have an action plan. It's great to have an objective. It's great to have a theory about life and success in business, but you better have an action plan, something to deliver all those promises and objectives we find ourselves making every day. But here's what gets in the way of motivation between a Friday and a Monday. It's called life, isn't it? And that's the thing we have to eliminate. The little voice on the shoulder, the thing that keeps giving you the reasons that you make excuses to stop yourself doing something. When I was 9 years old, my dad, Leo, was a fabulous man, ran 3 very successful businesses in the catering business, passed away with lung cancer. At the time, 9 years old, I was the eldest of 5 children. My mum was a widow at age 29. The one really significant thing about my father's success is, and we've heard this word before today, is perception. And the perception was that because my dad was really successful, he didn't really need any kind of financial structures. He didn't need any action plan put in place. He never really thought about his mortality. 2 years after my father's death, my mum sold up business. She had no entrepreneurial skill. We were moved to welfare accommodation, and we lived our next 10 years, I guess, piled in a room, really, really struggling. A real riches to rags story, if you like. But here's the thing I learned in those early teenage years when I was growing up. Going into work every single day, helping the family to make ends meet. I learned that a promise which is not acted upon remains exactly that, an unfulfilled dream. And during the time I was growing up, I always looked at my mum and thought, if anything ever happened again, if she ever met someone else and lightning struck twice, I would be the person to make sure there was some kind of financial security in place. They do say, of course, when one door closes in life, another one seems to open. And about 3 years after my father's passing, my mum met Dave, an equally lovely man whom I came to think of as my own father. He was my best friend. He helped me through my education. He was always there by my side. He was a really, really terrific guy. But during the time I was growing up, I set myself a goal to make enough money to help my family survive financially if anything were to happen to Dave. And at the age of 21, when I finished university, I went into business, continued my career, and started to put those structures into place. But most of the time in my teenage years, I procrastinated. I kept putting off some of the tough conversations and decisions I needed to make. I'm going to ask you all another question just for a second, just by a show of hands. How many people here, when they were born, could walk? Just raise your hand. How many people here, when they were born, could talk? What about swim or ride a bicycle? How many people here today were super successful in business when they were born? Because here's my contention, ladies and gentlemen. I believe every single person here today was super successful when they were born. And I'll tell you why I know. Every single person here today has had a conversation. I've been observing you for the last hour or so. Every person walked into this room today. 2 things have to happen every single time in order for us to transition from a natural ability, which we all clearly have, to the fulfillment of a goal or objective. And those 2 things are to be shown how to do something. It's what our parents typically did. And then we have to take decisive and positive action. That's one of the things I help clients to do every single day. Now, another question, lots of questions. Think of a really successful business model. Let's take Starbucks. We've heard about Nando's, for example. I'd like everyone just for a moment to write down or think about one word that sets that business apart. Think of a super successful brand and give me one word that sets them apart from all the others. What is it that's contributed to Starbucks' success? Is it product? No. Is it price? Absolutely not. There's one very important word, and it is a word that I have put into my business practice. I've shared with hundreds of thousands of individuals, and it has transformed the way they do things. And the word is experience. It's not brand, it's not service, it's not price, it's not product, it's not delivery, it's not staff. It's experience. That end-to-end experience that customers that we deal with and interact with every single day get from the moment they walk in the door to the moment they leave. Now, I did promise you earlier that I would give you some kind of tangible takeaway. How many of us in business ever find customers raising objections? Price, delivery of service, Ever come across clients, contacts, colleagues that raise objections? Yes or no? Okay. Now, what's interesting is I've been in the financial arena, rather irrelevant in terms of what we're talking about today, but it manifests itself in lots of different businesses. One of the things that we come across often is objections, and what we've been taught through centuries is absolutely the wrong way to handle an objection. So let me share with you, here's your free tangible takeaway from today. There are 3 ways to handle objections, a 3-step process that I guarantee works 100% of the time. Now this lady, who was kind enough to be so honest earlier, can now be my volunteer. I did say I'd come back to you. Okay, and for 20 of my hard-earned pounds in the UK, it's not really 20 pounds, it's one of my own, but I'll come back to that. You're going to be my volunteer. All I'd like you to do, you can stay sitting in your seat, I'd like you to try really, really hard to say no to the question I'm about to ask you, okay? We'll just put this to the test. Okay, so let's just imagine this lovely lady has just said something like, I've got no money, I've got no budget. You know, that's something we often come across. We heard from our event planners earlier on, you know, price objection is a fairly common objection in business. Okay, here's what you don't do. You don't create conflict, and yet that's the way we've been taught. So this lady's just said, I've got no budget. So I start, number 1, I welcome the objection. I'm really, really pleased you mentioned that point. Now, the reverse psychology here is I'm now disarming the negative thought in her mind. No conflict, no pushing against, welcoming the objection. If I was you, I would be thinking exactly the same way. That is called empathy. Building empathy in one simple sentence. And if I could show you how, in working with our other clients, we create money that they didn't have before they met us, would that be of value? Why? Now, you've done that deliberately, haven't you? But thinking about this for a minute, how easy is it to say no? You've just said no. Who's the one here who's looking a bit stupid right now? I say that with respect. Okay? You've done it because there was I threw down a challenge. But I've asked you what's called a left brain question. I have asked you a logical question which compels you to say yes. And you can apply that in any sphere, any business, any situation by asking a left brain question, which is not what we do. We tend to ask too many emotional questions and we lose control of the communication process. So embrace the objection, deal with the empathy bit, build that bridge, and then ask a logical question. The answer will always be yes. Can I handle her objection about no budget? She genuinely has no money? Of course not. But that's not a client I want to engage with. But sometimes, as we know, an objection can simply be, give me more information. To conclude, everyone remember my stepfather Dave? The one who stepped into my father's shoes that became my best friend? I put off having a conversation with him about putting a financial structure into place for 2 years until December 1991. In February 1992, Dave, just like my father all those years ago, was also diagnosed with cancer. He passed away 3 weeks after his diagnosis, just after I'd fulfilled my promise. And as he passed away, those last words that he said, which will remain with me forever, were, "Son, thank you for what you did for your family. I'm so proud of you." But the key word, ladies and gentlemen, is did. It's what you do that counts. Discipline or regret, both of them are painful, but if you don't do the first, I guarantee you'll always get the second. Thank you.